Welcome to Eagle News. Hello, I'm Kira.
And I'm Nora.
We are so glad you could join us today. In today's episode, we will report Eversole Run Middle School news, national news, Ohio news, teacher focus, science news, riddles, technology news, and much, much more.
In U.S. news, what is Native American Heritage Month? Please watch this video.
What started at the turn of the century as an effort to gain a day of recognition for the significant contributions the first Americans made to establish and growth of the United States has resulted in a whole month being designated for that purpose. One of the very proponents of an American Indian Day was Dr. Arthur C. Parker, a Seneca Indian who was the director of the Museum of Arts and Science in Rochester, New York. He persuaded the Boy Scouts of America to set aside a day for the first Americans, and for 3 years they adopted such a day in 1915. The annual Congress of the American Indian Association, meeting in Lawrence, Kansas, formally approved a plan concerning American Indian Day. It directed its president, Rev. Sherman Coolidge, and apropos to call upon the country to observe such a day. Coolidge issued a proclamation on September 28, 1915, which declared the second Saturday of each May as an American Indian Day and contained the first formal appeal for the recognition of Indians as citizens. The year before this proclamation was issued, Red Fox James, a Blackfoot Indian, rode horseback from state to state seeking approval for a day to honor Indians. On December 14, 1915, he presented the endorsements of 24 state governments at the White House. There is no record, however, such a national day being proclaimed. The first American Indian Day in a state was declared on the second Saturday in May 1916 by the governor of New York. Several states celebrate the fourth Friday in September. In Illinois, for example, legislators enacted such a day in 1919. Presently, several states had designated Columbus Day as Native Americans Day, but it continued to be a day we observe without any recognition as a national legal holiday. In 1990, President George H.W. Bush approved a joint resolution designing November 1990 National American Indian Heritage Month. Similar proclamations under variants on the name, including Native American Heritage Month and National American Indian Alaska Native Heritage Month, had been issued each year since 1994. In U.S. news, in Eastern Africa, a volcano rises more than 19,000 feet into the sky. It's Mount Kilimanjaro, one of the world's tallest mountains. Every year, thousands of people try to climb to the top. Fewer than half succeed. Montana Kane of Texas beat the odds. She climbed the mountain with her mom last year, when she was just 7. She was one of the youngest climbers ever to reach the peak. It felt great to reach my goal, Montana says. Her adventure began about 2 years ago. Montana found out her mom was planning to climb Kilimanjaro. She begged to go, too. I wanted to see what it was like above the clouds, she says. The Kinney knew it was important to be prepared. They practiced hiking on hills near their home, and they did research. They discovered that they had to be ready for the kinds of weather. The bottom of Kilimanjaro is warm, but the top is snowy and cold. The Kennys also learned that climbers can get altitude sickness. This illness can be caused by climbing very high too quickly, so they planned a route that would let them go slow. Montana and her mom set off in March 2021, but even with teamwork, the 6-day climb to the top was tough. She refused to give up. 2 days later, she made it to the top of the mountain. I was finally above the clouds, she says. Today, Montana wants other kids to know they can reach their goals too. She tells them to plan ahead, use teamwork, and stick with it. You can do it, she says.
On this day in history in 1860, Abraham Lincoln elected president. Abraham Lincoln is elected the 16th president of the United States over a deeply divided Democratic Party, becoming the first Republican to win the presidency.
In language arts news, what are context clues? Context clues are hints that the author gives to help define a difficult or unusual word. The clue may appear within the same sentence as the word to which it refers, or it may follow in preceding sentence. Because most of the vocabulary is gained through reading, it is important that you be able to recognize and take advantage of context clues. In Eagle Sports news, winter sports officially kicked off at the Nest this week with our basketball tryouts. Thank you to all those who tried out. Wrestling continued preseason preparation with open mats. Our competition cheerleading squad competed at the Milford High School even this past weekend. The girls shined as they finished 3rd overall. Great job, ladies. This week will be the first official practices for our basketball and wrestling teams. The first official day of wrestling practice will be Monday, October 31st from 3:15 to 5:15.
I'm Nora.
And I'm Kira, and this is this weekend's weather.
On Friday, there is a high of 74 and a low of 51 with a 10% chance of rain.
And on Saturday, there's a high of 74 and a low of 59 with a 0% chance of rain. And then on Sunday, there's a high of 72, a low of 53, and a 60% chance of rain.
And that's it for this weekend's weather. Have a great day, Eversole. In science news, how does energy change form? Energy often changes from one form to another. For example, the drummer transferred motion to sound energy. When the moving drumstick strikes the drum head, the drum starts to vibrate. The motion of the vibrating drum head creates the sound you hear. Any form of energy can change into another form. Frequently, one form of energy changes into 2 or more different forms. Have you ever sat in front of a campfire? What are 2 things you notice? The fire creates light. It also warm by the fire, meaning it creates heat. The energy of the fire comes from the stored energy in the wood. The wood contains chemical energy. As it burns, the chemical energy is changed into light and heat. Not all chemical energy changes produce light and heat. Our cars use gasoline as fuel. Gasoline contains chemical energy. When our cars burn gasoline in their engines, it is converted into motion and heat. In social study news, what is anthropology? Anthropology is a study what makes us human. Anthropologists takes a broad approach to understanding the many different aspects of the human experience, which we call holism. They consider to pass through the archaeology to see how human groups lived hundreds or thousands of years ago. What was important to them. Anthropologists also compare humans with other animals to see what we have in common with them and what makes us unique. Even though nearly all humans need the same things to survive, like food, water, and companionship, the ways people meet needs can be different. Anthropologists also try to understand how people interact in social relationships, for example, with families and friends.
First up, Jack Hayes for being ownership by Miss Wright.
Next up, Jack Morrison from Miss Keck for being service-minded.
Kennedy Fritter for being service-minded by Phelps.
Cam Cooper from Miss Dishock for being service-minded.
And Michael Ahmed for being respectful and by Miss Greco.
And lastly, Daphne Toe for being service-minded and respectful by Miss Burkhall.
The inspirational quote of the day: the best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today.
Well, that's Eagle News for today. If you have a story you would like to have featured on Eagle News, please let Mr. McNeil know. Here at Eversol, we are creating a community of excellence by being positive, working hard, and respecting the uniqueness of ourselves and each other. See you next week. Have an amazing day.